Hi, this is Drew Hannush from Hannush Web, and today I'm going to be taking you through the JCE Content Editor. If you use Joomla, by default, it comes with an editor called TinyMCE. A lot of times when I hear people complain about how difficult Joomla is to use, I find out that they're using the default editor, which is not very robust. So we install one called JCE, which is short for Joomla Content Editor, and it really does make it a lot easier to upload images and make links and do all the things that you're probably going to want to do on your website. So I'm going to show you first of all how to find out whether you have JCE installed or not, and we'll do that by going to System Global Configuration, and under there you're going to find that there is default editor JCE. Okay, if it says editor TinyMCE, then you are using a more difficult to use editor, and if JCE is not available, then I would get your developer or us to install that for you. But all Hannush Web designed websites should have the JCE editor within Joomla, and we also have a specific configuration that we use to take some of the more unnecessary tools away, and I'll describe that a little bit more as we get into the presentation. So the nice thing about this JCE editor is that it is used in many places within Joomla. We use it for updating articles, we use it for updating components, and we also use it for updating some modules. So we'll go through a couple of examples there so that you get an idea. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at Article Manager, and we're going to jump in and edit a blog that I have over here that I wrote recently. So we're just going to click into the story. Now, things may look a little bit different for you if you don't see this blue bar up at the top of the page, but it's a lighter blue or it's a green. You're probably on an older version of Joomla, and it's probably time for you to go in and get an upgrade. So you may want to contact us about that. You want to stay on the latest version because the latest version is the only one that's getting security updates now, and that protects your website against hackers and all sorts of issues that you might run into. Okay, so now we're into the article manager, and I'm not going to go in depth on how to manage your website via article manager and the rest. We'll create a video sort of describing article manager versus components versus modules and so on and so forth. Today we really want to focus just on this editor right here. Okay, so you'll see your editor should look similar if you're one of our clients, and if not, it may be a little bit different. So let's get started with this and show you just some of the basics that you can do with this editor. Okay, this is your content area down here. So normally what I will do is I will open up in a tab the page that I'm going to be working on. Now you may not be able to do that initially because you may be creating a brand new page and there's nothing for you to see yet. Okay, if that's the case, then you're just going to have to rely on this editor right here to show you as close to what the final product is going to look like as possible. Another name for this type of editor is a Wysiwyg, which stands for what you see is what you get. And so in most cases we hope that we're showing you exactly what the final product is going to look like within this screen here, but there's a chance that maybe some of the fonts will look a little bit different before you publish, but it should be fairly close. All right, so a couple of things about this editor to keep in mind. First of all, a nice thing about it is that if you ever have to paste in some HTML code, you can do that, and I'll show you how. But the nice part about it is that you really don't ever have to do any HTML work with this editor, and that's the whole concept behind this, is keeping somebody who's not experienced with HTML code away from HTML code. Okay, but if you do want to see it, you can click this little show hide button here at the top, and you'll see all the code that your heart desires. Okay, so it keeps it very nicely arranged in here, as you can tell. So it writes clean code for us, which we really do appreciate. It makes it a little easier when we do have to go into the code to make some changes to be able to make those changes fairly easily. All right, so now let's jump into this first row of items here. Some of these are unnecessary. I'm going to give you sort of a lesson in how to create content for your website and keep it nice and neat and looking professional. So we'll cover some of those things here as well. First of all, let's talk about what are called inline styles. Okay, inline styles mean that somewhere within a block, and we're going to call this whole paragraph here a block, and we can also call this a block, and we can call this a block and this a block. Usually you can tell a block because there's some spacing above it and below it. In a case like this though, because of the way we've programmed this particular block, it does not have as much of a space in between it and the item below. Okay, so there are block elements and there are inline elements. Inline elements are going to be anything that you're going to apply in the middle of a paragraph, let's say. So a good example of that would be bold. So you can click on bold and you'll see that what I highlighted has now gone bold. All right. If I want to take that bold off, I just click it again and it removes the bold from that text. Now I'm going to show you something that you may have had some frustrations with in the past with any kind of editor, including Microsoft Word. Let's say you highlight all of this. Notice that I am highlighting also that blank space by mistake. Okay, when I do that and I click on bold, in some cases I'm actually highlighting, as you can see, when I highlight that, it shows me that that is bold at the moment. So what's going to happen when I delete this? Okay, I've deleted it, but the question is, have I deleted everything, or is that bold still there? In this case, because of the way I hit backspace, it did delete the entire thing. But let me go ahead and use my undo button here, and let's say I just grab from here to here and hit delete. Okay, do you notice that this is still highlighted as bold, but you don't see any bold text here? What do you think is going to happen when I start to type? I'm going to start to type and it's going to continue to be bold. The reason for that is, if we look over here under the show hide, the reason for that is because, as you can see, bold is a strong tag which opens and closes around that word Hannush, and you'll see that there is a little piece of code here which is called a non-breaking space. What a non-breaking space is this is code that says leave a blank spot there. Okay, in this area. So because there was a blank spot there and that strong tag remained in there, when I started to type again, it made whatever I started to type after that bold. Okay, so I'm going to show you, and I'm not going to go deep into HTML, but understand in HTML there's an opening tag and a closing tag for each particular kind of style. And if you look down here at the bottom, you're going to see a path. This path, if you see, there's the word strong. Well, that's actually the strong tag. So if I click on that, you'll see that it highlights everything that has that strong tag on it. The nice part about using this feature is that you can come up here now and click on bold, and you'll know that all of that bold tag is gone. The strong tag is gone completely. So when I go in and I try to delete this and edit it from that point on, I'm not going to get any surprises where I start to type and something is bold when I don't expect it to be. Okay, so that's kind of a nice way to keep your code clean. Okay, I'm going to go back and undo the changes that we've made, bring it back to the way it was. All right, so that is your bold feature. Something to keep in mind with bold is that you can not only click on the little bold button up here, but and you won't be able to see me do this, you can bold with your keyboard shortcuts, which would be Control and B, and then hit Control and B again, and it will remove the bold. Okay, so that is an inline style called bold. And again, it's inline because it is within a block. It's just a little bit of something within a block that we're changing. All right, italic works the same way. As you can tell, we now have italicized text, and if I want to click in the middle of that and come down here and click on EM, which is the tag for italic, I can click that, highlights the whole thing, and when I click that, it actually takes it off of the code completely. So there won't be any mess ups with italic all of a sudden showing up. Okay, so those are two features you can do, and you can use Control-I also if you want to do italic. Strikethrough is here. I'll tell you what, though, for the most part, you're never going to use it unless you have a website where you're doing a discounted price on something. And in that particular case, you may say $59, and next to that put $56, and then you could use the strikethrough to show that it's no longer 59, it's 56. But again, in most cases, your programming is probably going to be set up to do that if it's in a shopping cart or something like that. So I find very few cases where you use strikethrough. All right, also we have centering of text. Now this centers a block element. So remember I said this whole paragraph here would be considered a block element. So if I put my cursor in the middle of it, you'll see that it's now centered everything. This, of course, is a line long enough that it's hard to tell that it's being centered, but it is. And one thing I will say about centering is it's very unprofessional. A lot of people use it in newsletters and that sort of thing, but in the web, we try to keep everything from left to right. That's how people read. It just makes more sense. Centering really has no purpose in the web world, so I would try to avoid using that. If I click it again, you'll see that it removes that alignment. There's left align. You should never have to use this because text naturally aligns to the left. And there's right align. Well, again, this is a little hard to read, and it's usually not a good practice to use this type of alignment, align right. And you'll notice there's little tool tips under here telling you what each of these buttons is about in case the icon looks a little bit confusing for you. All right, now down here you're going to see I have a bullet list. Okay, let's see, I wanted to change that bullet list to being a numbered list. There's numbered list, and because it's already bullets, I can just click it once and it turns into numbers. If I click it again, it's going to remove those numbers and the bullets all together. Okay, if I want to change it back to bullets, I can click here. Works very much like Microsoft Word. I will say it has the same sort of bugginess that Microsoft Word's bullets have. If you come in here and you click into this spot and you try to put another one of these bullets in here and then you try to indent, okay, you're going to see that the bullet looks a little bit different. And you may try to nest these bullets 2 or 3 deep. It'll work. The problem is every once in a while your cursor will do just like it does in Microsoft Word and zoom off the page. And you're like, where did it go and why is it not formatting correctly? So it's a little touchy. Remember, when you're doing this sort of thing, whether you're doing it in Microsoft Word or you're doing it here, it's writing code in the background. And the reason why it ends up creating issues is because sometimes when you leave this and then come back to it and try to add another bullet in, you may be putting some code out of place. It tries to interpret what you want to do, but it sometimes gets a little sloppy and doesn't handle it exactly the right way. So in most cases, you're probably going to have to come back in here and either remake it by just taking the bullets off completely and then set up and start doing your bullets again. As you'll see after I took them off, it does do something a little strange and you're going, why would it do that? Like I say, bullets are just one of those things that are sometimes a little bit difficult to work with in any kind of editor, so you just have to play with them and get them to work properly for you. Okay, so that's basically how these two work, and anytime you hit enter, you're going to get a new bullet, but if you hit enter again, it's going to break out of that bullet sequence and let you start typing a new line. Okay, so that is how that works. And go ahead and back out of this again. All right. Next thing again I'm going to show you here are block quotes. Now, some websites will have a special design for block quotes. And you'll notice by the name, this is a block element, not an inline element. So let's say I wanted to take this whole paragraph and I wanted to indent it. I can highlight it and then I can hit block quote, and you'll notice that it indents everything. This is good when you have a really long quote within a article and you want to highlight it. You want to indent it from everything else, and so thus the name block quote. Okay. Again, to take that off, I can just click it again and it goes away. Next thing here is a horizontal rule. It's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but if you ever need to put a line in between to divide, you can do so by using the horizontal rule right there. Getting rid of it is sometimes a little bit of a trick. I go there and I hit delete, 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 and it's not going to go away. I can try clicking on it. Not necessarily going to go away very easy there. So it's probably going to take some messing up of something to get rid of it. As you can see, I had to backspace out of my bullets, and now I got to put the bullet back on. So, but I got rid of it. So it's a little touchy. Sometimes I'll leave some spacing, like a paragraph spacing, by hitting enter after the horizontal rule, so they got some room to delete it if I'm not sure if I want it there or not. All right, this next button is a non-breaking space, not something you're really going to have to use. The reason why it was put in here initially is because in HTML you were not allowed to put in more than a single space. So in other words, if I wanted to put in double spacing after a period, it really wouldn't let me do that in HTML. So it would have to put in those little non-breaking spaces code that I showed you just a little while ago. And hang on, let me see if I can find that real quick. So website, and then you'll see that there's a space, and then it has this non-breaking space. That's what you're going to be putting in if you use this non-breaking space button right here. So see, if I do that, I'm just adding a bunch of non-breaking spaces, and when I come back over here and look, you'll see that there's a bunch of those in a row. It's not good practice to use those. What I would say is also that you can do it by using your space bar. So you don't really need a non-breaking space button. It's kind of a waste of time. But like I say, I also will see people sometimes put in non-breaking spaces to try to indent something. That's also not a very professional practice. And in today's responsive design, where sites get bigger and smaller, you really aren't going to have a lot of control over how your text is showing up on the page. So I would avoid using those non-breaking spaces because they will create all sorts of issues for you in terms of alignment, especially if somebody's looking on a mobile phone. All right, something else to keep in mind here is that there is a button up here for removing formatting. Now, here's something that sometimes people will do that they really should not do, and that is they will cut and paste from Microsoft Word directly into this editor, but they won't use what I'm going to show you in a little bit, which is called paste as plain text. Okay. When you don't use paste as plain text, you're going to end up with this editor trying to write Microsoft Word code into the editor. And I'm telling you, once you get Microsoft Word code in this, it's very hard to get it out of there. In fact, usually what I end up telling people is just highlight all your Microsoft text, delete it, and paste it back in there using paste as plain text. And so I'll show you a little bit more about that once we get to that point of the presentation. Okay, and actually I just jumped away there for a second to make sure that I put the paste as plain text button into our particular editor. If you see this without the T on the clipboard, then contact us and we'll make sure to get the proper version of paste as plain text in there for you. Okay. So remove formatting, as I was discussing, it will remove formatting, but it's only going to remove any formatting that you've done with the JCE editor. Okay, it does not affect bullets. If we had bolded something here, and then I come back and highlight all of this and hit remove formatting, you'll see that it does remove that particular formatting. So it's a way to sort of clean things up a little bit, but it's not going to be 100% useful if you've made the mistake of pasting Microsoft Word text in here or something from another website. The problem is that when it comes over from Microsoft Word, it's most likely going to try to copy the font used in Microsoft Word, which may have been Times New Roman. It could have been any particular type of font. It's going to try to use that same font in here. And the nice thing about this editor is that all of the typing that you do in here, it should automatically show up in your website's font without you having to apply any styles to it whatsoever. Okay, so you want to have it come in here clean, and it's also great for the future if we ever do an upgrade to your website or change the design of your website and you start using a different style font. We can just go into our style sheet and change the universal font for the website, and with one quick change we've changed it everywhere. Okay. One of the things you're also going to notice is that in our version of the editor, there is no way to choose a font style. Okay, so you can't go in and say I want Times New Roman, you can't say I want Arial, so on and so forth. Simple is better. So it's better for you to determine what your main style font is and then create a hierarchy of about 3 different headline sizes, and that be all the formatting you do for the styles on your website. Otherwise, just use bold and italic. Beyond that, everything else should be general, whatever the font style is that you use throughout the website. Here's the thing that I find. If I go to a website where they're using many different colors and things to try to attract my attention, after a while, none of it attracts my attention, and it actually makes me feel like it's a very unprofessional website. Okay, look at the New York Times website, look at any professional website, larger website. They will use a series of headline styles and sizes, but they'll reuse them over and over and over again. And what happens is when you go from one page of your website to the next, you sort of get a sense of the importance of things because you start learning that style as you look through the website. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here also in just a moment, how to keep that site looking professional. All right, so we've gone through all of these items here, and now we're going to look at styles. And I'm going to tell you that most everything here under styles is not going to be useful for you. These are inline styles. Remember I talked about the difference between inline styles, something in the text, in the block area, versus the entire block. Okay, so what we have here is we have block styles. And you can see that this block right here is known as a paragraph. So if I click on the P tag down here, you'll see that it highlights the entire paragraph. All right, so most of what we're going to want to do is going to be using this paragraph block style. All right, after, let's say though you want to do a headline or you want to do some subheadlines. All right, you're going to create some new blocks, and the way you create a new block is basically you can come here and you can hit enter, and then you can start typing. And I'm going to make this headline 2 or subheadline. Okay. When I do that, I have created a whole new block, and you'll see that there's a P tag down here. I could grab that if I want to make sure I get the entire line. Now when I come up here, it says paragraph, but instead I want to change this to heading 2. Now notice that it matches up to what we've used here and here, but you'll also notice that for some reason it grabbed this as well. That's going to happen sometimes. Again, it's how it's writing code in the background. Let me show you how you can get rid of that. I'm going to hit the backspace to bring it up to this line, then I'm going to hit enter, and that's going to put it on its own block. It's not going to be connected to this block, which is apparently what happened there. All right, so this is kind of good, showing you what some of the bugs are that can happen. All right, let me go ahead and change this back to paragraph. Perfect. Now you see that it's the same size as everything else. Now I just have to go back in and create the bullet again. Okay, so if I want to now change heading 2 to heading 3, you'll see that I can just grab it right there, and I can come up here and hit heading 3, and it changes it over to headline 3. And in this case, I would call it a paragraph header. Now, I'm not actually typing this in all caps. I'm typing this in normal, cap first letter, but the style is written to always keep everything as all caps. So that's idiosyncrasy with our website versus the way your website may work. So, but here's the rule of thumb that I use in terms of creating headlines within a site. First of all, whatever the title is to your article, that is automatically on your web page going to use headline 1. Now the thing about headline 1 is you can't use it more than once on any particular web page without there is an exception to that rule, but I'm not going to get into that, confuse you right now. Just remember, one H1 tag per page, and so you don't have to format that. We format that when we create your content management system and your template and all the rest. So never use H1 heading 1 because we've already used it. So as you'll see right here, heading 1, that's off limits to you, or should be, unless you want to be in danger of having Google thinking you're spamming them with their most popular heading tag. As for heading 2 and heading 3, you can use those all you want. So here's what I'm going to say. On heading 2, I'm going to call that a subheadline. There's two ways that you can use subheadlines. You can either use a subheadline to support your main headline. Okay, so it may be some additional information that you want to give. And the search engines do give more power to these headline tags. Even the H2s and the H3s get a little more power than the regular copy on your web page gets. So using subheadlines is actually a really good idea. So you can use it to do it as a support for your main headline, or you can use it to break up large amounts of copy. And as you'll see, I used my heading 2 right here to show that I'm switching from one subject to the next. Okay, here's my H3 tag. Now you'll notice that the H3 tag is used many times. I use it almost on every single paragraph. Well, this is good for search engines because I'm getting these words a little more power than everything else in here, but it's also handy for you to glance through this and be able to see what the subject of this is all about. So if you want to jump down and get to something, okay, I just want to learn about optimizing images for the web, let's go through the steps down here, then I can find that by eyeballing the page. It's a little easier to get to. All right. So H1 tags you should never use. Heading 2 tags, you can use those for subheadlines. And then if you want to use H3 tags for paragraph headers, go ahead and do that, and you can put one over every single paragraph if you want to. Anything to help make things easier to read and for Google to understand what your article is about and your user to understand what the article is about. Okay. All right. So that's the world of H1, H2, H3. All right. So we're going to jump down here to the next line. We're going to talk about anchor tags. Now, one thing about anchor tags is that they are links within a web page. So it's a way to drop somebody down to a particular part of the content. So let's say in this particular article, I'm going to go ahead and create a new line here. Now you'll notice that this line still, if I type in it, is going to be in heading 1, heading 2, and I don't want that now. I want to go back to paragraph. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do table of contents, and I'm going to put a bullet, and I'm going to say simple DIY for Mac or PC, which is this subheadline that you see here. And my other subheadline is organizing images for the web. So I'm going to put a link here for organizing images for the web. Okay. What I'm going to do is I want to create an anchor. So beside this text, I'm going to click on the little insert anchor, and I'm going to call this simple insert. You'll see that it puts a little invisible anchor there. down at this part, I'm going to put in another anchor, and I'm going to call it Optimize. Insert it, and you'll see there's another little anchor right there. Okay. Then what I'm going to do up here under the table of contents is I'm going to highlight this text, and I'm going to use this little chain link that you see right next to it. This is how you create a link. So you highlight the text you want, you click on the little link button right here, and then as soon as the editor pulls up down here, you'll see article anchors, and you'll see that simple and organized are right there. And it uses #simple. That's how it knows what the where it's supposed to be dropping in the page, because in the code around these it will say pound and simple. So all right, I'm going to create a link to the second one, which is organizing. Okay, it's actually optimize, not organizing images for the web. Hit insert. So I'm going to go back to this, and so I don't destroy my link, I'm going to just copy this and not go all the way to the end of the line, because if you go to the end of the line, sometimes the link will not end up on the text that you're starting to type in. But if you're in the middle of it, it will keep it. So optimizing images for the web. Now what's going to happen is when I click on this link as a user, it's going to drop me to this part of the page. Okay. And if I click on this one, it's going to drop me to that part of the page. Let me go ahead and show you by saving. Okay, and when I refresh this, you will see that there's my table of contents, and when I click on simple, it drops me to that line, and when I click here, it drops me down to that line within the article. So if you have a really long article, this can be very handy for somebody to not have to read the entire thing. All right. Okay, continuing on with links, let's also show you how to make a link to another page of your website. So if I want to go ahead and highlight some text and then click on this link, I could go find another page within my website if I wanted to, and just navigate through and say, okay, I want to link to the web design page. Okay, I can copy that link. I can come back here and I can paste it in the URL box. And you'll notice that it has the HTTP : / all in front of it. It is within my website, so I don't want to change my target, but in a moment we'll show you how you can change your target. And if you want to write some information about what this link is, you can do that also. Write some text in there. The search engines will see that text, but it won't really show up anywhere except when you mouse over the link. Okay, so there you go. See, that's how it's going to look. So it gives somebody a little bit more information, but it also helps the search engines know what that link is about beyond the text that it sees right there. Especially if you're going to say something like click here, then if you're going to make that your link, definitely use the title line to be able to say, where is this taking me to? So it has a good sense of that. All right, so I've created that link now, and when I click on it, it's going to go ahead and take me to that page within my website. There's another way to link within your own website, and that is to come up here, click on the chain link again, but this time we're going to jump into your menus. Okay, and we've done or will do a video on menus and how to manage them so that you understand a little bit more about what I'm talking about here. But we set up a different menu for each of the menus you see on your website. So in other words, up here at the top, there's probably a menu set up for those, and there's menus set up for each of these. So if I want to edit or find a menu item under the About Us menu, then I can just click on, let's say I wanted to link to the philosophy page, click there, and you'll see up here it puts some information into the URL box. Believe me, it's enough information to allow the system to know what you're linking to. Now, the reason why it's better to link to something within your own website doing it this way rather than the first way I showed you, which is to copy and paste the URL, is what happens if you move this page somewhere else in your website. This way, it follows you. It follows that link. If you just change the web address, though, and move something around and you've pasted or what we call hard-coded the address in there. If that page ever moves, then this link is going to break. So much better for you to go into these menus and try to find the page that you want to link to. But if it's a blog and you want to link to a blog page, it's going to be very hard to find the blog through the menus. But there is another way to get to that content, and that is come under here to content, and then in my case I've got a blog category where I save all of my articles, and then I can link directly to the blog item right here. Okay, so that's under content or under menu, and that gives you a different way to be able to create a link. So the information's all up there. I'm going to not mess with target, because once again, when I go to this web page, when I click on it, I want it to open in the same window as the window that in the same tab as the page that I'm currently reading. You don't want to start creating a situation where somebody clicks on a link and it opens a new tab, and then they read something else, click on a link within your website, and it opens another new tab, and then they got 35 tabs open when they leave your website. You only want to mess with this target in this next situation. Okay, and that situation is, let's say I want to link to Google. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and link by highlighting my text again, hitting that same chain link. But up here, I'm going to type in http://www.google.com. Make sure you put the entire address in there. If you forget to put this part in, it's going to try to link something within your website, and it's never going to be able to find it. Okay, so put the full address in there. You can again search and just copy and paste from your URL bar up here if you want to. So in other words, I'll just do a search for Google, and it's going to bring up the Google search engine, searching Google on Google. How interesting. In fact, I seem to have freaked it out, I think. Okay, so here we go, and I click on the Google homepage, and that's what I want to link. So I'm going to grab that link right there, and I'm just going to paste it in here, and I can say this is going to Google in the title if I want to, but because this is going to an outside website, I'm going to tell it to open this in a new window. Okay, if you don't do this, what's going to happen is when somebody clicks on that Google link, they're going away from your website. This way it opens a new tab. When they're done reading Google, they can close Google and they'll be back on your website. So good practice to get into. Another time I would do this, and I'll show you this in a few minutes, is if you're ever linking to a PDF document. And the reason is, you've probably been through this, you go ahead and you click on a link to go read a PDF on a website, you close the PDF and the whole website goes away. The browser closes. You're like, where did everything go? Well, that's because you didn't put the they didn't put the target as open in new window for that PDF. So I'll show you in just a few minutes. So anyway, open in new window, hit insert, and there's the link, and that's going to go to Google when I click on it and open it in a new tab. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and save and show you this. Go back to our previous page here, and you'll see there's the links, and when I click on that, it pulls up Google automatically in a new tab. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close that. And one thing to remember is when you hit save, you get no undos. All of your undos are gone. There is version control in here, which is very nice actually. It has to be activated. If you don't have it, then ask us to activate it for you. And what that'll do is it'll allow you to go back to a previous version of the web page and restore it. Okay, and you'll see right there it has successfully restored my old version. All the changes are gone. All right, so the next thing that we're going to learn about is linking to a PDF or any other kind of document. You'll see right here that there is a piece of paper with a chain link in it, and this is how we're going to do it. Basically, first of all, let's just go to a new line here, and so rather than highlighting some text, we're going to go to this new line, and we're going to click on this paper document, and we're going to get this file manager. Now, this file manager is showing you your own server. Okay, this is not your computer, this is your server. So for you to link to anything like a document, you can't have it on your computer. You're going to have it on the server. So we're going to go ahead and upload a document to the server so that we can use one. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to this little upload button, which is a document with an up arrow on it. And it says you can drop files here. Well, sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. I'll tell you what, with images, if you do a single image, your browser is going to think you just want to look at that image, and it's going to take you away from the website and show you the image. So I tell people to avoid dropping images in here. But you can drop PDFs and Word documents and that sort of thing in here if you want to. So, but I'm just going to use the Browse button so that you can see this. When I come into here, I'm going to look for a PDF, and there's one right there. So I'm going to highlight that. You'll see it'll tell you how big the file is and what the file name is, and there's a red X. So the red X means it's not been uploaded to your server yet. So hit the upload button. You'll see that it goes 100%. Green check mark. That was quick. We like that. And you'll see that now this is down here. Notice there's nothing in your URL box. That means that nothing's been highlighted yet. So you need to click on that, and now you'll see that it's highlighting that particular PDF that we're going to create a link to. Now remember, we put nothing down here, so we have to build this link 100%. So the first thing I'm going to do before I forget is I'm going to say open in a new window because it's a PDF and I don't want my customers upset because all of a sudden the page disappeared when they closed the PDF. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to not call this HostGator.pdf because I'm going to actually put an icon next to it that will show people it's a PDF. So instead, I'm just going to call this HostGator document. Okay. And in fact, I won't even call it document. I just call it HostGator. Okay. And then down here, I'm going to put a check mark by the icon, meaning I want to see a PDF icon next to it, similar to this. And then if it's a really large image, I would say anything that's a megabyte or bigger, I would probably put a check mark here so that when it creates this link, it's also going to put in the size next to it so somebody knows it's going to take a little while to download this particular file. For title, you can do the same as you do with the link and put a title in there if you want to. I'm going to skip that this time. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to hit Insert. And there you go. There's your icon and there's your link, and it even tells you the size. So that is how you create a PDF link within your website. You can do the same for Word documents, images. If you're going to do it with images in this manner, understand that they are not going to see the image within the page. They're going to just see a link to the image. When they click on it, it'll take them to that particular image. I'm going to show you how to insert images into your page here in just a second. In fact, I'm going to start right now. How about that? So hopefully you get a good feel for that. Do understand that you can also link inline if you want to, but I'll tell you the easier way to do that is to go ahead and highlight the text that you want to be the link and go back to this chain link again. And then you'll see here a document with a plus. Click on that. And now you can go find the document that you want to link to. There's going to be a whole lot less options for you up here. You're just basically going to grab the link to the document, hit Insert. You'll see that it has the link right there. Make sure you open a new window because it's a PDF, hit Insert, and now when they click on that, they're going to go to that PDF. What I would also suggest is that at the end of this, you say that it's a PDF, because there's nothing more annoying than clicking on a link thinking you're going to another page and suddenly a document tries to open up, because sometimes on some browsers it may throw up a warning and say you're trying to download a document, and that could freak some people out. So it's a good idea to let them know that they are going to be looking at a PDF or downloading a PDF at that particular point. All right, now let's get on to images. And to insert an image into the page, what I'm going to show you is that you're going to click on this little picture frame right here with a star by it. After you put, actually let me go back and reiterate that, you're going to put the cursor, let's say we're going to put the image right here. You just want to put your cursor somewhere on the horizontal line where you want this image to show up, okay? So in other words, I want the image to be over here starting at this height. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my cursor over here on the left hand side, and we're going to align that image over to the right side. So I'm going to click on this. Looks very similar to the file manager, and in fact it's showing you the exact same folder down here. But in this particular case, I'm going to upload an image. So let me go over here, and this is where I said dragging and dropping does not work very well. So what I would do is I would browse for an image, okay, and we're going to go ahead and grab this particular image. You'll see it's very large. One of the nice things about this software is that it will allow you to resize the image right here, okay? So if you need to drop the size of it, you could do so. Let's say that we only need it to be 400 pixels wide, not 4,000. And see, this still says 480 over here, but if I click away from it, it will figure out the proportion from what I've changed here. And you'll also see that there is a little chain link back here, but this does not mean link. Well, it does. It means that these are linked at the moment. If you break that, then anytime you change this, this is not going to change, and you're going to distort your image and take it out of the proper sizing. You can also create a second image if you want to, which would be a thumbnail, in case you want to create two images at once, one for a large image, one for a small image. So it's kind of nice in that respect. And when you're done, click on Upload. It will resize the image. It will bring it up into the server, and you'll see that over here it's giving you a little preview of it. It looks like it's highlighted, but it's not, because there's nothing up here yet. So you still have to click on it, okay? And once you do that, you're going to see a little preview up here that's going to show you how the image is going to align with everything. Now remember, we wanted that image to align over to the right. So let's change the alignment to right, and you'll see that it is aligned to the right. Now what you don't see is that if this text were a little closer to this image, it could butt up right against the edge of the image. I usually like to put a little margin in. 8 pixels is pretty good. It'll give you a nice little cushion all around the image, and it will look much nicer than having it bunched up, or the text bunched up right against the image. In some cases though, you may say, well, I don't really want the padding on the top. So I take out equal values, and I'll change the padding on the top to 0, and you'll see that this image, when I click away, is going to jump up, okay? And you may even say, well, maybe not on the bottom or on the left. You know, you can edit that any way you want to, and these all become individual controls. Another thing that looks nice around an image is a little border, but by default, it may be giving you a black border. Black borders are a bit harsh. I would go for a lighter color, and something nice in this editor is it will grab your template colors. So let's go ahead and grab a lighter shade of gray, and it just gives a nice little soft border around the outside. Stay with a 1 pixel border. Going any larger than that looks a little weird. In fact, it'll make your website look like it came out of 1998. So much better to keep your width down to 1 pixel. Alternate text is very important. When we put this image in there, people who are sight impaired are not going to be able to know what that image is about, because their little audio browser is going to read and it's going to say image. You would rather it say what that image is about. So you can go ahead and type whatever you want to in here. Write that in there. That gets associated with the image. Also know that the search engines read that as well. Search engines don't know what that picture's about either. So this text is read by the search engines and can assist you in keywords, although I would not spam these by throwing a bunch of text in. Once you're done with that, all you have to do is hit the Insert button, and there's your photo. Okay? Let's say you want to change this photo. Just highlight it. Click on your chain link again, or on your photo box, and you'll see that it's back and available for you to work on. Notice also, when we were uploading that image, it was 250 kilobytes, something like that. And in optimizing it, Joomla brought it down to 10 kilobytes. That's really nice. If you can get down to that size, it's going to load very quickly on your page, and it still looks good. So that's the main thing we want to worry about. All right. So that's how the photo editor works. What if you want to embed a video in here? Well, the easiest way to embed a video is, let's go to YouTube. I always suggest using YouTube. You can use Vimeo. There's some other services out there, but YouTube is attached to Google. So if you're concerned with search engine optimization, or perhaps when somebody's looking through a Google search, you'll notice that sometimes there's a photo associated with videos that are up on the site. Those catch your eye, especially since Google doesn't tend to have any photos within their search results. So it's really handy way to catch somebody's eye in a way to find your video. So, and you're using their bandwidth, YouTube's bandwidth, and their controls, and so it can save you money actually in addition. So let's go ahead and see if we find a video here. And when you pull up that video, I'm going to grab this link from up here. Okay. All right. Don't want to listen to that. Now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to embed an image or a video within the page. So I'm going to click on this little video file, and you'll notice that I created my own little break here. And that break was done by hitting enter and just getting a blank spot. Now up here it says media type, and I'm going to change that media type to YouTube. And I'm going to paste that video address in there. You'll notice when I click away from it, it automatically gives it a size, and it changes this to something that it understands in terms of a URL. You can change the dimensions here. If you want to, let's say we'll change it to 550, and that's going to make it a much larger image. Again, it keeps it proportional. I created a space because I wanted it to be on its own line, but you can also align these if you want to the left or to the right. And left and right are really the only things you need to use, even with the images, top, middle, and bottom. They just don't look good. So I'm not going to put any padding in because I'm putting this in on its own line, so there should be some natural padding above it and below it. And you'll see there's the space for the video. You're not going to be able to see the video until you actually save it and go online. This is just a placeholder to let you know how big it's going to be and how it's going to set in there. And that's all you have to do for videos. If you want to change, you could just come in here and paste your new YouTube video address in there if you want to. If you're doing Vimeo or Vine video, then you take the address and you would choose from these options. Some people ask, should I embed a video directly in my website? In other words, should I upload it into here? And you can do that, but I highly advise that you don't. There's a couple of reasons. But the most important would be the cost factor. When people watch videos, they use up a lot of your bandwidth, and you only get so much bandwidth per month. And if you use that up by having a lot of people watching the videos, then all of a sudden you have to buy a lot more bandwidth, and bandwidth does get expensive. So use YouTube or use Vimeo, one of those, to eat up the bandwidth and embed the videos within your own website. Okay, so we're getting close to the end now, but one of the things that I was talking about a little bit earlier that I want to make sure we cover is paste as plain text. Paste as plain text is, let's say we open up a Word document and we want to paste something in, or we grab something from an outside website and we try to paste it in there. Okay, what's going to happen is, let's see. Let's go to the New York Times website because I'm guessing we're going to find a font style here. Yes, that is sort of a Times New Romanish kind of a font. I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to come into this area and I am going to hit Control V. Okay, Control V is paste. Straight paste, not paste as plain text. And you'll notice that all of a sudden I've gone from the font style that we use on the website to who knows what this is, okay? And so then when I try to clean this up, I go, hopefully remove formatting. Well, luckily in this case it did remove formatting, but I don't know if it removed all of that formatting, okay? So what you want to do, there is a better way of doing this. Get to the new line that you're going to create and click on this little folder with the T on it, and you'll see it says paste as plain text. When you click on that, you should be able to paste your text right in here. Okay, now it still looks like a different kind of font, but once you insert it, it strips everything out of it. A lot of people in the old times would use Notepad to do that. They would just go open Notepad, paste it in here, it strips all the formatting out, and then you'd copy it again and you would paste it in here. Okay, works very much the same way. So this is like having Notepad built into your editor. All right, so basically paste as plain text works the same way in Chrome and Firefox. In Internet Explorer, it will say, do you want to paste from your clipboard? And so you skip that little box popping up in between. But I kind of like that little box because I can see what's coming in. Okay. All right, and we showed you indent just a little while ago. It's similar to the block indent, and then you can unindent if you want to using that. Either one is fine. If you use subscript or superscript, you can do that here. Here's your do and undo. Understand that you can undo as many times as as many changes as you've made since your last save. However, sometimes you'll find that it will get to a point where it doesn't give you all of the ones back. If you ever have made too many mistakes and you can't undo enough to get out of them, you can always hit close. It's what I call the great undo button, and it will erase everything that you've done during that session. Okay, but as soon as you click save, this is going to go away until you start making edits again. So you may have to go back to a previous version to be able to fix the problems that you've created. So keep that in mind. All right, one of the other things here that I don't really train people on too much is tables. Tables are kind of annoying. I would probably do a separate video on tables. Tables really don't need to be used much anymore, especially in these days of responsive design, because they are not very responsive friendly. But just like Microsoft Word, you would choose how many rows and columns you want, and it's going to put this in here, and it's going to allow you to increase the size. And there's all sorts of little tools if you right-click to allow you to change cell sizes and do all of that. And so if you ever need to use this, then we'll put together a little video on how to manage tables, but I'm not going to cover that right here because tables have kind of disappeared with time. What if you need to put in a trademark? You can come here and you'll see the little Omega system symbol, and you can choose from a variety of different characters that, and especially if you're doing foreign languages, and you can grab those from there. There is a spell check. It does not work by default. You have to click it to activate it, and it will underline anything that it doesn't understand. Apparently it likes everything I've written here, so we seem to be pretty good. So some people like to write their blogs and just write them directly in the editor. You can do that, and that will help you out. Notice this little bar right here. Okay, so what is this bar about? This is your read more bar. So let's say you're writing a blog, which this is. And I'm going to go back to the main blog page. Notice that this whole article, when I go back to the main blog page, does not show. All that shows is the beginning, and then it says read more after that, okay? When you have a blog page, you want to try to keep as many headlines as you can on this page without inundating people with a whole bunch of text to read through to get to additional stories, because I just want to read these headlines. and then I'm going to choose which one I want to read. So keep these short, these little introductions short, and add a read more so the people who are interested in this story can read the rest of it. And how do you do that? Well, you add a read more like this. So for me to add that in, I'm just going to have to create a new line, or I'll tell you the best way to do it is just go to the end of the previous line and click on this little button right here, insert read more, and there's the bar. So that means there's going to be text here that says read more, and this is not going to show up on the main page. Okay, and that's what that read more button is all about. All right, so that's pretty much a run through on the JCE editor, and over time we'll probably split these up into smaller pieces so that you can learn a little bit about each individual function when you need it. But this is the broad overview. We usually spend an hour of our 2-hour training sessions going over. And I hope this has been helpful for you and that you have fun editing your website. And if you have any questions, just let us know. Thanks.